And we're here. Welcome, everyone. I'm a one and only host, Fernando. Here it's Novio Sales Team, and I got here by my side the captain himself, Bill. How are you doing today?
What's up? What's up? I'm good, man. I'm good. Pumped for this. How are you?
A bit nervous? Yeah, we got a lot of tips to give out to people for free. So I'm a little nervous about that.
Yes,
We don't usually
indeed.
do that. So if you're here and you're listening, pay attention. You're gonna have a real class today.
I usually don't hold back, especially in the slides thing. I started with a goal. Okay, 30 minutes. We'll do 30 slides, and then the presentation ends up being like 90 slides, and it's gonna be fun. There's a lot that has been happening in the industry. Before we get started, do you want to give like a quick intro to Snow.io for anyone living under a rock who hasn't maybe heard of you guys?
Exactly. If you've been in a retreat this last 8 years, Snovio is the best outbound tool for you who's working on your outreach. We've been in the market for 8 years and going on still. So yeah, we got a lot of differentials that put us ahead in the market. We got the highest accuracy out there when it comes to lead verification. We got a lot of leads that a lot of other people can't get. So if you're looking for the ultimate outbound sales tool, here you are. You found us. What about you, Bill? For those living in a cave,
Nice.
who are you?
I'm the CEO of SalesCaptain. SalesCaptain has been our baby for the last 4.5 years now. We do outbound for some of the world's fastest growing B2B SaaS and service brands. We work with all the way from Series B to C companies, local business software, to Nestle and doing campaigns for coffee machines and Starbucks dealerships, all the way to like OnlyFans creator services. So our team definitely has a lot of fun on a day-to-day basis. We're clear enterprise partners, heavy Snow.io users. So yeah, it's an exciting time. That was what I was thinking in the back of my head. Like there have been so many things going on, not just in the background, but across our industry for the last like year or so that have almost completely changed how we do outbound, what the challenges are, what is feasible, things that have also made it much more difficult, and I want to do start from there. And also seeing quite a few shifts, a lot of changes in the team structure, issues with AI, no use of AI, BDRs. Do we have BDRs? Do we no longer have BDRs? So many things that are going on, like besides just how do you send an effective cold email, LinkedIn message, LinkedIn connection request, that make it a super interesting time to be doing this together.
Exactly. You got to keep updated with the world, especially now we're living in the age of AI. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to change in our methods, a lot to change in our daily routines in order to do the same that we were doing
Yeah.
1 or 2 years before. So there's always a lot more to do in order to not fall behind.
Yeah, no, 100%. Um, no, just super, super genuinely super excited to be doing this. I'll just hint that there's a special Snow.io offer, one more from Sales Captain. We're not going to be giving it away yet. You'll have to stay till the end. But for those who stick with us, besides a lot of knowledge, we also have prepared a few special goodies for you guys. And we have people
Exactly.
from
That's
from
your
from all over the world, it seems, from all the way from Georgia to Norway, Ukraine, Federico from Argentina, Singapore, Brazil, Greece. Damn, this is an exciting group of people that we have with us today.
that's that's globalization right there.
Indeed. All right. How are we doing with the slides?
I guess we're all set. We're 15 minutes now into this, so shall we start?
Let's go. Hit it.
Let me just add it here, and there it is.
Perfect. All right.
Right.
First,
As you guys can see, our topic today is how to build a 5 million pipeline with multi-channel cold outreach and AI agents. Those of you coming right now, we got Bill here, captain of Sales Captain, and this is our ship sailing right now. Ready, Bill?
Let's go.
Great. We got here a bit of an intro on who we are. I guess we covered that a
Yep.
while ago. Here,
Same for this
if
one.
you gotta, yeah, we also
All good.
covered Sales
This
Captain.
this is always my worst part. People who don't know who we are can look us up. Yeah, 2024. Literally, this is a slide I got from a presentation I started last year, end of last year. 2024 has been a weird year for outbound and cold email. If you wanna continue a little bit with the slides,
Perfect.
I've collected a few screenshots from I'm gonna call them crappy things that have happened over the last like 12 months. This is one of them. Google's new AI powered, obviously, spam filter updates, including things like if you get more than 0.3% spam complaint rate, your entire domain gets blocked, which is just crazy. And it does apply for all of us out there. To Microsoft doing the exact same thing. If you want to move on to the next slide, it's yeah, just crazy what has been going on. We're big fans of staying up to date with everything that's happening around communities, what other people are seeing. Obviously, we have to stay top of the talk. So it's yeah, the news are not good. Let's just say that. Oh yeah, and then Google killed open tracking because if you guys have seen how
I
open
guess
tracking
Bill
is
froze
done,
there for a second.
let me know
You
if.
froze there for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying that Google also killed open tracking because the way open tracking happens is you include one very small white image called a pixel inside of an email, and then you can track if someone has opened the email. Both Apple as well as Google have been working really hard on making sure that we can't use open tracking or that they ban it. They can't say don't include images in your emails, of course, but what they can do is at some point they started displaying these messages. Images in this message are hidden. This message might be suspicious or spam. So imagine you're trying to do outbound and then you're hit with a message like that. It's just like super weird. As a recipient of that, you're most likely not going to respond to it. So do we have to say more? Like it's just bad. Like what world are we going to bring our kids to? Damn. Yeah,
Super
let's move
bummer.
on. Yeah.
That's a super bummer. And this tends to happen due to security reasons. Some companies have higher securities, or your security is failing at some point. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Exactly.
All right, guys, I got a bit of a sore throat today.
No worries,
Quick
I got you on
recap of
that.
this year.
Yeah,
Again?
delivering to the inbox is just getting harder. Across all providers, if you're using Microsoft or if you have a lot of enterprises you're reaching out to, you might have seen lower reply rates and lower positives coming in. There is a really good reason for it. It's hard right now, and it has stayed exactly the same to deliver emails to Microsoft inboxes. It just is. They've made their spam filters super strict, which just makes it harder for everyone. Open rates have also gone down if you're tracking them, because now the best advice across most sending platforms is don't do open tracking. And then positive replies are obviously going down as a result. And everyone's just complaining that cold email is dying. So yeah, fun days. It kind of ties in really
Yeah.
nicely though with what we're going to be discussing and where I'm going to hand over the mic to you, Fernando. But let's move on and see a few more trends and insights from the industry, because it's a really
Yeah, I
interesting
was
time indeed.
exactly. I was going for that. Some people say that email is dead, but I guess that these people are just with the wrong copywriting and strategies. That's the main channel you can use to start a conversation. Not everyone's gonna answer you on their phone because people are rushing all the time. People are busy with whatever, but everyone's gonna sit in front of the computer and open that email at some point. So let's argue why email is still alive.
Yeah. And then quite a few other things going on at the same time. So we're seeing that because of AI and also because of saturation in digital in general, people's inboxes are more crowded than ever before because we have AI. Everyone can put together a prospect list. They can do massive sends of campaigns. Tools are making it really easy to do the sending. So the noise has increased. SEO is having its slow death moment because it's being replaced by AI. No one really knows how to deal with that. Apple just introduced cold calling blockers on the phones. They're gonna have an AI ask the caller to identify themselves, and then they're gonna send that to their users. SDRs are underperforming as a result of all of that, and the traditional sales team structure is no longer effective. We're seeing companies across the industry right now not just not hiring, and there's definitely a hiring freeze across sales departments, but actively firing. I think Microsoft 2 or 3 weeks ago put their head of sales on vacation while half of his team, or some crazy number, I think like 5% of the team, was getting fired. And obviously, everyone's looking at AI and saying, like, okay, maybe we can do a little bit more with AI. Why hire more people? But still, at the same time, no one has actually solved how to do outbound effectively, and that's what we're here to talk about today. This also comes uh, along with a different topic, which is that the predictable revenue model no longer works in the era of AI. There was this model that exactly next slide. There was this model that hire a lot of BDRs, give them a LinkedIn account and an email address. They send out 50 emails a day, 500 contacts a week, and then out of that, they're gonna get sales. And the more BDRs you had, the more you grew your sales team, the more results and the more revenue you're gonna generate. Using AI, don't need all of that. Like, you can scale your campaigns, and using obviously tools like Snov, you can scale your campaigns with just a few clicks from one interface. We're seeing outbound essentially. I was having this conversation with a client half an hour ago, and we were discussing the conversation started because he asked me a question: who owns outbound in 2025? And I said the answer is really clear. Marketing owns outbound. Because if you think about the old model, by the way, if you go to the next slide, I have a few bullets on that. If you think about the old model, it was one BDR finding 50 relevant prospects a day, sending one-to-one messages to those people a day. One-on-one communication message, one person from the brand, one salesperson, one prospect. That's purely a sales model. But you give someone access to Snov.io and the Clay account or a different sending tool, that allows them, that one person, to send out thousands of emails every day, thus making it a mass funnel. One-to-many communication, says our theory in our marketing books, at least the marketing books I read, makes it a marketing tunnel. So the other big shift that we're seeing is that AI have taken over the bulk of the process, the bulk of the lead prospecting, the lead segmentation enrichment, email enrichment, and they're actually making it something that sales can no longer effectively manage. I mean, it can still be part of a sales team, but they traditionally don't have the right qualifications and mechanism in place to run one-to-many campaigns. And it goes without saying, exactly in the next slide, like 52% of SDR teams do not meet their sales quota, according to the latest insights that we have from the market. So things are not that great, let's just say. But at the same time, it's been an interesting year for cold email and outbound in general, because obviously there's a lot more channels that you can implement than just email. And I have a quick recap of the positives as well, so that we're not just sharing negatives.
I would like to go back on something you said.
Yeah,
Let's
go ahead.
even get back here on the slides, because you were mentioning about SDRs underperforming, and here we mentioned
Yeah.
52% of the SDR teams do not meet their sales quota. That has a psychological effect as well. You watching us, if you're a team leader or a leader of any sort dealing with sales, then keep this in mind. If you're pursuing wrong strategies, if you're pursuing strategies that don't work anymore just because you believe in them, keep in mind that you might be making a huge mistake, because don't follow what you believe. Follow what definitely works. Here's why we're here today, to show you what does work today. If you keep following things that don't work anymore, your team will underperform. They will feel like what they're doing doesn't matter. They will pursue activity after activity with no results. So that's not working smart, that is working hard. That's why we're here to change.
Exactly.
Shall I move to the next one?
Go ahead. Yeah. There's been interesting developments as well. If you take us to the next slide. And we do have a question. What is an SDR? What is a BDR? Really good question. Let's clarify it at the beginning of our webinar today. Pretty much anyone in charge of identifying prospects, so potential clients, let's say someone going through LinkedIn and then checking the conversations that have to do with a specific product. Let's say someone on LinkedIn is talking about Outbound, and someone from the SalesCaptain team finds that conversation and says, hey, I saw you mention Outbound. We're an Outbound agency. Can we help with your campaigns? That is a BDR or an SDR. You can use both terms. There is a small differentiation, but not worth going deeper into. It's pretty much an integral part of any sales team out there. Yeah, I'm glad there's people on the chat that also know what an SDR is. So we have a varied mix. Okay, yeah, quick recap of the year. One of the interesting things that we saw being implemented across the board with multiple different providers, definitely including Lemlist as well, is waterfall enrichment. What is waterfall enrichment? Pretty much in the old days, let's say you wanted to find an email, right? And you used, I don't know, a tool like even Snov or ICPs or any tool in the market. The issue is you're only checking one tool. So if that tool doesn't have the email address, you're done. And that means if you have 1,000 prospects that you want to reach out to, you'll probably only end up finding about 60% of the email. So from 1,000 prospects that you've identified, your audience becomes 600 people. What we can now do with the waterfall enrichment process, and this can be done both for email, phone number, as well as a few other things like the industries. You can check multiple providers at once. So you'll check with ICPs, that platform, Snov.io probably within the mix as well. And then whatever platform has the email address will give you the email. So that way you're maximizing the amount of people that you can find email addresses and phone numbers from. And you typically don't get charged if someone doesn't find an email address. So it's a quite handy development that has allowed us to really expand the audiences that we're actually reaching out to with just a few clicks. And you can implement workflows that include waterfall, for example, within Clay. Snov.io is usually one of our main integrations, not just because it's definitely cheap, but also because it's quite accurate and it usually finds the bulk of the emails that we're looking for. Fernando, I don't know if you want to add anything. I'm on a rant here. I want to walk us through the additional parts here, but please, by all means.
I was just gonna add that that's a really great strategy you got there, and this really shows that there's no specific answer, there's no single thing that will solve all your problems. You gotta know what works best on your strategy, on your company, and on your daily routine. It's not a single tool that's gonna provide you with the miracle you need. You need to build your strategy. You need to take you where the numbers lead. That's exactly what you're doing here. And I believe, not only I believe, I've seen it. That's the best way to go.
100%. The other thing, I think we mentioned it before, is list building is now something that you can do with a few clicks. So in the old days, and we'll walk through it a little bit later when we're discussing how to do it with Clay, you had to find every single prospect by hand, qualify them by hand, and then add them by hand to a tool to send out an email. Right now, what you can do with Clay, also including tools like Snov.io, is you can literally define the AI the criteria, whether it's coming from LinkedIn Sales Nav, whether it's data from Crunchbase, even having AI bots go to the website, scrape the content of the website, identify it and classify it in different categories, and fetch the data back. And once you build that workflow once, you can then replicate it for thousands of prospects, literally in a few clicks. So AI list building has literally allowed us to go from a team of 30 people doing data for our clients to a team of 5 people who know Clay and are doing data for 3 times as many clients. So it's crazy what you can do right now. You can obviously also use AI for copywriting and personalization. You can use AI to create emails and personalize every email based on the prospect's company, etc., even though it's less effective at doing that. But still, AI can be really used for the data side of things. You also have website visitors identification, platforms like RB2B, like Snitcher, a lot of these tools that allow you to find the companies visiting your website. And then maybe you push those prospects to Clay, you enrich them, and then you send them to Snow.io and you send them personalized emails, being aware that they've been to your website. So this is what's also called inbound led outbound. When you're using traffic that's already coming to your website, maybe from sources like webinars, SEO, marketing ad spend, whatever it might be, LinkedIn content, they visit your website, and then because they visited, you have a campaign that automatically reaches out to them. All that is possible now in 2025, including custom intent signals campaigns, which I'm genuinely excited for, as well as setting up any number of inboxes. Like our average client now has 60 inboxes that we set up for them, and we can go into inbox setup in a sec. We can do all of that literally within a few clicks. We don't have to go through an endless process of setting everything manually. Those days are gone. The interesting thing is that we're seeing a cat and mouse kind of game. Google and Microsoft and the other email providers make it hard for us as outbound marketers to go to the inbox, to land on the inbox, same as LinkedIn is doing, but LinkedIn hasn't come up with anything new yet. And then you see all these companies from Stove.io to MailForge to Clay coming up with solutions that allow you to counter that. And it's interesting, I think right now, and that's why I said in the beginning it's an exciting time. I think right now the outbound marketers are winning, but we'll see more details in a sec.
Great. Microsoft makes it harder for everyone. Our support team knows it. We can only hear the stories. But yeah, that's great.
But it is what it is, right? Like, and it's what I have on the next few slides as well. Like all channels go through cycles where it gets harder. Mm-hmm. There was a time where literally bidding on Google Ads cost you 8 cents or something as small as that. I didn't come across Google Ads back then, but like 10 years ago, it was super cheap. Now it's getting more and more expensive. Same with every other channel. Meta ads as well. Then if we remove pixels or we have to shift the first part of pixels, it gets more expensive and you have to change your strategy. So it's not necessarily something new. And this is what I try to remind myself. Like, you know, all channels, all digital channels eventually become saturated for reasons like the ones we have discussed. If you go 1 or 2 slides ahead, this is exactly what's happening. So the big question is, how do we move forward from here? Yeah, 1 or 2 slides more, and we're there. Go ahead.
There's another reason why we gotta keep updated. As you mentioned, it was super cheap at the beginning. Now it's super expensive. So keep an eye out for emerging technologies, emerging strategies. Not only they tend to work because it's new, it's gonna get your clients off guard, but they're cheaper when they launch. So stay updated, guys.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we were discussing. You know, more and more marketers go into a channel, it becomes more saturated, it becomes less effective for everyone. Cold email, for example, LinkedIn did it, and then, you know, people did it on top of LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn came up with a solution to that. Cold email created too much noise inside inboxes because it became really easy to scale. And then eventually Microsoft and Google had to regulate it. So we're not seeing something that's, you know, unpredictable or crazy or no one saw it coming. It was obvious that it was going to happen, but that doesn't really deter us. Go ahead. So the big question is, what do we do moving forward?
That's the $1 million question right there.
Correct. Yeah. And I think I have the link to download the presentation, a few goodies as well. Maybe skip through it because I have the link again at the end of the slides, because we have to discuss about LinkedIn and multi-channel campaigns. And I don't know if you want to take over, or if you want me to give like a brief intro, because I know you have quite a few things prepared for us on doing automation on LinkedIn the smart way.
Snowville has one of the best LinkedIn automations out there. I guess that we can discuss it along the way. We're here
Yeah,
to hear from you. You are the captain.
cool. Yeah. Then let's talk about the main trends in 2025 real quick, because we've identified what I call like the perfect five that makes it almost mandatory to be using when you're running campaigns out there. The first thing is targeting, ICPs and targeting, and that's where it all begins. There's a really clear reason why this is the case. If you don't know who you're targeting, and if your targeting is not strong enough, if it's not specific enough, you're obviously gonna mess things up. Just to use a light kind of term, um, we typically define our audience as three main data sources, three main types of audiences that you can use in your campaigns. The first one, obviously, is LinkedIn. Anything that requires LinkedIn Sales Navigator is really easy to target. You can target those people from literally within LinkedIn all the way to Clay. So if your audience is on LinkedIn, it's really easy to find. And then what do we mean by LinkedIn audiences? Could be a marketing agency that has more than 30 digital marketers in-house based in the US. The second data source, which is quite interesting, is local data. Let's say we want to target physicians, doctors, dentists, local bars, pubs, any kind of business that you would classify as a local business. This is something that's super easy to do right now, because you can scrape the data literally all the way from Google Maps to pretty much anything, to Yelp, Agoda, Booking.com. We run a campaign for Nestle in the Asian market, and we're targeting hotels and selling, coffee machines and solutions like that. And one of the things that we did, because we wanted to build a map of the entire market of hotels in Thailand, is we used literally 5 different platforms: Agoda, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Google Maps, etc., etc. We scraped all the hotels literally from every single listing website. We then put them into Clay. The first step is we deduplicated them. Obviously, the same hotels will be found in multiple platforms, and that's a really easy thing to kind of get out of the way. So we deduplicated them. Then we enriched with additional details, going to the website, making sure that it's a 3 or 4 or 5-star hotel, because we wanted to have the tracking of that, going into Google Maps or any review websites and adding in review kind of data for those companies, and then finding employees, people that work obviously in those companies. And then with waterfall enrichment, we were able to find email addresses and everything else. So getting access to local data and local businesses is super fun. Another one that we're currently running in the US, targeting massage businesses, tattoo shops, etc., the local businesses that offer wellness services, is we do exactly that. We use Google Maps as the main data source. And then those businesses typically have a phone number and an email address on the website and or Google Maps, because they want to be found. They want to get appointments for people who are checking them out, which makes it really easy for us to give a prompt to Clay and just say, hey, go into the website and find the business owner. And when you find them, try to find their email on the website. So literally one of the easiest campaigns for us. They used to have manual BDRs doing that campaign for you, has become doing it with Clay, using AI, and literally building those lists. The third kind of main segment is literally anything else. Any kind of directory you can think of right now, all the way from store leads to Amazon. Store leads meaning like any e-com store out there, to any Amazon store out there, to any other type of directory that you can find. For example, industrial types of businesses in Malaysia. This is actually a business directory that exists that we scraped for a different campaign. You can scrape them. There's really easy to use tools like Instant Data Scraper, for example. That is a free Chrome extension. You can literally put it on Google Chrome, and it allows you to scrape anything. By the way, a fun fact here, talking about data and building your audience, is I've used Instant Data Scraper multiple times when attending conferences, and the conferences have a portal that allows you to see the people attending the conference. You can literally click it. It'll identify, first name, last name, company, etc. And once you have someone's first name, last name, and company name, you can pretty much find their work email. So one of our favorite plays is whenever we or our clients are attending conferences and they have access to the list of people attending, or they have a platform for networking, we'll scrape that platform using Instant Data Scraper, push the data into Clay, find everyone's LinkedIn profiles, email addresses, and then you can do multiple things. You can send them, free gifts, offers, offer to meet with them during the conference, do a networking event, share with them slides or notes from other important talks that you attended, and engage with those people in really creative ways. So again, the first step is always defining the ICP, defining your actual audience. A few notes there that people get wrong, and we've been doing this for quite a while now, is e-commerce is not a niche, SaaS is not a niche, agencies are not a niche. So when building your ideal customer profile, the types of companies that you want to work with, try to stay away from generic classifications, because it'll make it really hard for you to actually find the right people. So instead of e-commerce, for example, you can say apparel, pet products, electronics, food and beverage, health and beauty. And these are 5 distinct product categories that when you reach out to an apparel company, you obviously have a different pitch versus when you're reaching out to a health and beauty or a wellness company or an electronics company. And I'm saying this because one of our clients is a retouching business. They take the content from a photo shoot and then they turn it into the photos, that we see on company websites. And they wanted us to do outreach to e-com brands. And we started doing outreach to e-com brands, and we were sending the exact same email regardless of the industry. So a business like Nike, for example, or like Adidas, who sells apparel, would receive the same email and the same content as a business in the health and beauty or in the furniture space, which has completely different types of content. And then we would wonder why we're not getting replies. So literally just by shifting the way that you define your audience can give you a really big boost in terms of how things are done. The other thing is that you might ask, okay, but how do I identify what type of product one business is selling? I don't have my Clay workspace open in front of me because it's literally one of the simplest things you can use Clay for. Pretty much when you have a company and you have its website or its LinkedIn profile, you can set up Claygent, which is, you can think of it as a Google Sheet that has OpenAI on a specific column. And then you can ask, hey, let me know what is this company's actual industry, and you can give it a few examples. And what it will do is it'll go to the website, scrape all the data about the different products that the company is selling, and then come back to you with a one-word kind of answer. Or you can ask it to go to websites and classify the companies that it finds across, let's say, 5 different industries, because you've scraped every Shopify website out there, or you've found the data using a platform like Store Leads, and then you want to classify them to the companies, to the categories I mentioned: apparel, pet products, electronics, etc. So a really easy way to do that is say, hey, Claygent, go to those companies' websites and then figure out which of those industries do they belong to. That's it. It'll get it done once. It'll do the test run. Maybe you test with 10 different companies, and then you can click play, and it can literally classify like 10,000 businesses like in 5 minutes, which again, we've been discussing about the change in BDRs leading the way versus outbound becoming more of a marketing channel. You can literally get this done across like a couple of minutes. What used to take a single month for a 10-person team to get done. So
saves you a lot of time and effort in the process.
Yeah.
Sorry. Saves you a lot of time and effort in the process, And as you know, time is money. So the more you can automate your services, your routines, your processes, the more you can add technology to your business, the more money you save. Sorry.
Exactly.
There's an interesting point you brought a while back about that strategy with the hotels. You're an experienced guy. Yeah, I know that you did it in no time and with no effort. But usually,
Yeah.
for the regular person, how long would it take from beginning to end? The same strategy that you applied there. How long did it take, approximately?
I mean, one of our team members is really big on processes and operations. So I usually have him whenever we're managing a team of people, I usually have him build the process. I think the most that we've been able to kind of get a person to be productive with the use of their time, someone in the sales team, is 50 prospects in one day. So realistically, maybe 250 prospects a week. For someone to do in-depth research, go to the website, personalize a message. So if you were doing the same process manually, maybe one individual can reach out to, let's say 50 people every single day. So 250 people, let's say 200 people a week. And that's like on the high end of how productive you can get someone to be.
Great.
Someone more average might do 100 prospects a week. So imagine the difference when we set up a campaign and launch it, and literally within a month, we've reached out to 3,000 prospects. Like the difference in volume and scale is massive versus what one individual or even three individuals can do. And we can literally like deploy that and automate not just the first touch, but also the follow-ups, because one individual will then, need to be monitoring the sequences and adding follow-ups. Like we'll do it and we'll reach out to 3,000 people in a month, or 5,000 or 10,000 people if we have a big audience that we're targeting. And we're literally not adding extra effort. Like the exact same input that it takes us to build a list of 3,000 prospects, it'll take us to generate a list of 10,000 prospects. And I think that's just magical in 2025.
Exactly. Talking about building these lists and getting in touch with these people, let's go a little more into LinkedIn do's and don'ts. I would like to bring up this multi-channel strategy for cold outreach infrastructure. We got a few key points here. Let's discuss them briefly because we are almost at the end of it. I guess that we can extrapolate our time a bit in order to reach the end of it. But yeah, let's get into it. So some key elements would be to start with an email or a email and LinkedIn, or LinkedIn and email. It depends on what's working best for you, where your client at. If he's on LinkedIn, then you should definitely pick LinkedIn over email and then reach them via email. Or if your client's not on LinkedIn, if you know that he's checking his emails more than he's spending time on social, then switch it. First send him an email, then get him with a LinkedIn connection. But with Snowview, you can do both actually and automate this process. You can create a separate campaign for LinkedIn and a separate one for email, or you can mix them at will. If someone replies to you on LinkedIn, then you send an email, or vice versa. If he opens your email, then you send a LinkedIn connection, and so on. This way, you're sure that you're reaching your clients everywhere. That's why we're aiming here. Add a layer of retargeting or calls later if you need it. If you're noticing that, and with Snowview, you can keep that control. If you're noticing that he's opening your messages, he's checking your LinkedIn messages, but he's not replying, you know that he's active, you know that he's hot, he's there to listen to you. So if you got his phone number, sorry, then give him a call or try to be more aggressive on the means that he's responding more or actually seeing more because he's not replying. So try to get more aggressive on email. Hey, I noticed that you're checking my messages. Is there something wrong? Can I help you with something else? Or if you got his phone number again, sorry, you notice that he opened your message twice that day, give him a call. Try it. What's the worst that it can get? You risk closing a deal. For those do's and don'ts as well, I like your take in that, Bill, as well. But
Yeah,
what definitely doesn't work is sending those hi first name messages. You don't even check your variables if you got all of them set right, or if they're sounding too robotic. If you're starting to sound like, "Hello, Bill. I am
yeah,
Fernando from Snowville. We are blah blah blah." Blah." This doesn't work. Add that human touch, add that warmth into your message. Sound like you would sound.
exactly.
But that's the thing. We're all humans. That's what we got.
One of the things that we're debating lately, I don't know if you have any input on it, is whether or not we should be including a, a message in the connection request. And I don't know if you have like any initial thoughts. I'll share one of the things that we have been discussing. I think Theo from the team kind of brought it up and built our strategy around it. What is your take? No message request, kind of personalized message request, salesy and to the point sales request. What do you recommend?
I guess that it depends on who you're targeting, because a lot of people they value more that hi, my name is la, 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 before the message, so he knows if you accept you or not. This tends to happen with high profile people, big CEOs or big managers, and so on. But for other people, if you're a recruiting company, you might not need it. If you're just reaching out for new clients, then I guess it's up to you. But for high profile people, definitely add some little note before the message itself on the connection request. So that works.
That was close to what we had been seeing and observing as well, because people do want to know what's coming, and
Hmm.
we ideally not want to spam people that are not open to it. So our ideal strategy is we do hint to the fact that we're doing something, like we're pitching something in general, like hey, we connecting with you because we do X, Y, and Z or something similar, so that people are a little bit aware that this is not just completely out of the box random message. And then they can obviously always check what you do, check out your LinkedIn profile, and then if they're actually engage with you. And then they know that hey, if I connect with someone who says outbound and go to market and clay whatever all over his profile, most likely he offers something related to that. So if I'm not interested, I'm not going to engage, I'm not going to connect. So we've seen exactly what you're discussing working like literally across the market, especially for decision makers.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning there's nothing wrong with just adding people out of the blue, randomly because you like their profile. They might come in
Yeah,
handy at some point. But for those that you do expect something back, that you do have a goal with that person, then personalize your messages always.
exactly. The other thing about messaging as well, like messaging is usually the second thing I always come to right after the targeting, is messaging has to be relevant. It doesn't have to be personalized. Like we get into this kind of assumption. And by the way, we have about 50 or 60 slides as well, if we want to go to it. But if we have questions, by all means, guys on the chat, YouTube, wherever you're watching us from, feel free to bombard us and we'll try to cover as much as we can. What we've seen
Sure.
with messaging is a lot of people try to do personalization on a prospect basis, spending a lot of money, a lot on credits, on Clay credits, AI credits, etc., which is not really useful. Like I don't really care about personalizing my profile based on something I posted about a year ago. There's multiple reasons behind this and behind why this is a bad strategy overall. The first one is, if you look at any audience and if you look into the tools that try to do that type of personalization for you, most of them will leverage either company data or things you've posted on X, on LinkedIn, etc. Now, out of the people that you know and that we know on LinkedIn or in real life, how many of them, A, are on LinkedIn, B, are actively posting, and are actively posting like a couple of times a month? So if you reach out, you're going to mention something that actually resonates, and you do that in an automated way. So the first reason why I personally think it's a bad idea to try and personalize every single message that you're sending out is it's not personal. Either because you're not going to find the amount of people that you're aiming for, or because even if you find it, it's for a really small number of prospects. If you try and do it by company, you don't really need that crazy level of personalization. You can find company attributes, identify what's going on within the business, and then reach out. So whenever we talk about messaging, I always tie it back to targeting, and that's where I try to get the messaging structure for it. So my ideal kind of message is, hey, whatever, and different variations of that, of the greeting. If you're running a local campaign in a specific market, by all means leverage local ways to greet people. Could be salute, whatever it is, ciao, etc. What is it in Portuguese, by the way?
In Portuguese, we say oi,
Oi.
or we can say e aí, which is the most common. E
Nice.
aí, como você tá?
Yeah, like imagine if you receive a cold email and it starts like that. Like it shows people that it shows that they paid attention to where you're from, what language you
Exactly.
speak, and then you have an interline. So for me, the interline is like where the personalization happens. The interline usually touches on a problem they might be facing, a change their industry is having, something big happening within their business, their lives in general. But again, it doesn't have to be, oh, Bill, I saw you went to school there. I saw you broke your leg. I don't care about it, because whether or not something happened in my life does not influence what's going on in my business and what are the things that are happening in my business. So again, this kind of fallacy that we can get this hyper-personal message, like I want to break that. So greeting, interline, hey, I'm reaching out because I noticed A, B, and C. It might be that I noticed that you guys are an outbound agency and your marketing team is, I don't know, bigger than your service team. Why do you have that many marketers in-house? To which I might respond, we're building the biggest, go-to-market agency, whatever it might be. So you start with an observation about their business and their market. Another example might be France, if I'm not mistaken, is giving away grants for companies deploying AI, right? So if I want to pitch those grants, if I'm a business consultant or wherever, I might have a goal in my outreach campaign to find software development houses in France and reach out and say, hey guys, the government is giving away funding for building AI, whatever. Do you want us to help you get that funding? That is like super easy. Someone giving away money and you being able to access it. Like any consultant out there would love to run the campaign. Any software house out there or company building products would love to receive a message like that because it gives them value. So being able to identify not just what happens within the prospect's life, but like what happens within the bigger kind of sphere here. Same as we're talking about, like how is AI impacting go-to-market and growth for software businesses, et cetera, then allows you to create super personalized message, not because it's personalized to the individual, but it's personalized to the environment that they're part of. So interline that makes sense, that helps them resonate. And then obviously, what it is that you've achieved or helped them achieve. So, I saw that you're a company that operates in the X, Y, and Z space. You're probably facing this issue. So there you mentioned the biggest pain point, the number one pain point that you assume that they're having. And then you say, hey, based on the work we did with X, Y, and Z client, and that's where having case studies and bringing them in, I saw that we can help you guys by doing X, Y, and Z. So then you have the solution. You combine it with a case study, you combine it with social proof, and we've done this for companies like Nestle, Plus Genius, whatever, Snow.io, ICPs, etc. So you add your social proof, and then you add the CTA and the call to action, the CTA, the call to action, and the ask. What do you want from them? Because an ask is not, do you want to jump on a call? Like jump on a call to discuss what? How I'm doing as an individual, what time we're having the Snow.io webinar, discuss what exactly. So for me, it's important to distinguish and differentiate the ask. What is it that you're pitching? What do you want? What is the next step? From the call to action, like, let's do it. Like, okay, I'd love to show you how our software works. I'd love to walk you through the process of getting that funding from the government. Would you like to jump on a 15-minute call? Because then you've given them the purpose of the call or the purpose of the call to action. Would you like me to share a report that underlines how X, Y, and Z, how to get the funding? And then they can respond with a yes or no. And that's the other thing, like making it easy for them to respond and say yes. And then the signature.
Exactly.
One little sneaky thing I typically do, if I want to share a link with someone, I never share it in the body of the email, meaning with it between hey, first name and signature, I'll try to never share a link because people will immediately think this is a spammer, right?
Yeah.
The way I think about it is I call it the mom rule. So you would never include a link in the body of your email, right, to your mom, because it's your mom, right? I'm Mediterranean, so we have a really, really close relationship with our moms. Fernando, I think for Brazil, you probably have something similar, or warm countries in general have these things. So, and I hope I'm not being a racist here, but who doesn't love their mom, right? So, but if your email has a signature set up, and then your signature includes a PS because it's there by default, is it really salesy? So if in the signature you say PS, we just launched a webinar, da da da, here's the link, or PS, we have a landing page, da da da, or PS, here's a quick demo of our product. So the secret that we found, whenever we have a white paper, a product demo, landing page specific to that ICP, is we put it in the PS, because then they don't think it's related to them, and I don't think it's salesy.
Something's more like, just remember, if you like to la la la, then here it
Yeah,
is. Something like that.
exactly.
That's great.
Yeah,
Talking about
yeah,
sneaky things, that's not exactly sneaky, but it's something psychological. Not only matters what you say it, but it also matters how you say it. Speak your client's language, not only English, Portuguese, or whatever, but be aware of where they are. For example, if you're working on a copywriting for UK business, it might be the same client, the same profile in the US, but you're not gonna just copy and paste and just change those variables. You gotta change how you speak to them. If you say bye to them with cheers in the US message, then it's gonna sound weird to them. Not everyone uses cheer. Maybe a see ya or have a great one or something like that. So be close to your lead, to your client. Make sure that you're speaking the same way they are to build familiarity and trust.
yeah. No, 100%. The last thing I'm gonna touch on, and then I have two bonuses that we can discuss, and then start taking
Yeah,
questions
if
and wrap it up.
you wanna jump onto some specific slide here.
Yeah, why not? Hang on. Let me find the slide number for you, because I think that, okay, so go to the end, and then you'll find a slide called the Perfect 5 Blueprint. And then I'll just talk a little bit on top of that so we don't mess people up. And then I'll share the deck with the rest of the info.
What number
So the
is
third
it?
element, perfect. You'll have to go to the end. And there's like 88 slides or something. Yeah. I was discussing about the data and the targeting. This is the part right there. So I mentioned audience, message, and offer, and then the third part is infrastructure and deliverability. One of the main issues that we talked about in the beginning is how hard it's become for us to get to the inbox, right? So we had to completely change our approach, and I think Snow.io definitely plays a big part in that, with both the email finder as well as the email verifier and the sequences that you guys, allow people to set up. So in the old days, I still remember where you could have just one inbox and you could send, Google said, up to 1,000 emails a day, which no longer exists. Like currently, we can send at most 30 emails a day per inbox. That means that our infrastructure has changed by default, and we now have to use multiple inboxes. How many inboxes do we use? I mentioned the number. We currently use about like 16 inboxes to send emails to like 3,000 people. So we typically put a threshold of about 30 prospects reach out to, 30 emails sent every single day per inbox. So depending on how many prospects you want to reach out to, you need multiple inboxes. Where do you buy the inboxes from? I've added a few providers in the slides, and you guys can find some. You can DM me, because we're also offering premium infrastructure for that allow you to buy inboxes in bulk. Because if you're setting up 60 inboxes manually, good luck. And then once you have the inboxes, you have to do email warm up. I think that's one of the things that Snow.io definitely shines on, because it allows you to do both the warm-up as well as the sending, and also LinkedIn sending from one platform. So you don't have to have multiple tools in order to run one outbound campaign, and you kind of combine all things in one. So infrastructure and deliverability is the other thing. And then when it comes to outreach, one slightly more advanced tip that I would give people is turn open tracking off once you've seen what the open rates for your campaigns are. So keep open tracking on for 2 to 3 weeks after you've launched your campaigns. Once you've made sure that you have above 50% or 60% open rate, then you can turn it off and then monitor other stats like the deliverability, the number of total responses that you receive, or any spam complaint rates or any warm-up issues. And the reason for that is obviously Google and the other providers are on the keeping an eye out for links being included and open tracking being included in your emails. And that's why I also mentioned don't include links in your email, especially email one. If you can make it like a plain text email, like not including literally anything other than text, that'll be awesome. So for me, the basics are target audience, who are you reaching out to and why? Message and offer, why, what are you sending out, what are you saying and why? And then the third part, which is the infrastructure. How do we ensure that we're actually getting our LinkedIn invite accepted, our email delivered to the inbox? In order of importance and priority, when debugging a campaign, it's also important to note that you have to start from the audience, then the messaging, then the infrastructure. There's a really clear reason for that. I usually use this analogy. Let's assume you have to sell fridges and your target audience is someone in the North Pole, right? An Eskimo. And you're trying to sell a fridge to an Eskimo. It goes without saying that you'll have to be really, really eloquent with the way that you're presenting the fridge and really present on, every single thing that you can come up with in order to sell that fridge. Versus, it's much, much easier to sell the same fridge to someone in the middle of the desert holding an ice cream cone that's melting. You can literally, in the second case, you can literally just say fridge, $500, and they'll know what you mean and just buy it. So having the right audience and then having an offer that resonates with that audience allows you to convert like crazy. And then deliverability, the biggest mistake and the biggest kind of thing that the biggest misconception about deliverability is, you have good deliverability and bad deliverability, and that by itself is the problem. Deliverability is always an issue when the audience and the messaging don't align. So when you're saying something that's not super interesting to your audience, you'll usually receive replies that are not super warm, that usually say no thanks, maybe later, we don't need it, etc., etc. So once you start receiving those types of replies, keep an eye out in your deliverability, because very soon it's going to start dropping. So deliverability is the third thing that kind of gets influenced by the other two elements. Obviously, if your deliverability is below 90%, you have to probably pause the inboxes for a little bit to warm up again and then start your campaigns once again. But just saying, hey, our deliverability is broken, let's fix it. Sure, fix it. But then the moment you resume your campaigns, it's going to become an issue again, simply because the audience and the message don't align. So sooner or later, you're going to come up again back into that same issue. These are like my three golden tips for outbound. And then the two final ones are websites and landing pages. We know that before people respond to an outbound email or a LinkedIn message, they'll check out the website. So if your website doesn't have landing pages for the niches or industries that you're targeting and messaging specific to those, people are going to bounce. And then the final thing is content, right? So having content, literally like the webinar that we're doing today, where we're offering sales value, like free value, no expectation of anything in return, is an important step. Having LinkedIn content, same as we also do, is also an important step, because especially if you're selling things that are more expensive or have longer sales cycles, people don't buy something that costs 100K because you sent them an email. They'll buy it because they opened the email and then they went to your website and then they downloaded a presentation or a case study. Then they went to your LinkedIn, then engaged with your content, etc., etc. So we've seen that having nurture sequences after someone has engaged with you the first time, whether it's on email or LinkedIn as a channel, is the key to success. With the final thing obviously being multi-channel, right? Like we live in an era where not everyone is always available just via email. So LinkedIn can come in as a really interesting channel in order to combine your outcomes, and also because people are generally speaking in the digital space going to check their LinkedIn profile. So if your audience can be found on LinkedIn, that's the way I usually think about it, then you should be doing LinkedIn outreach as well. And that's it. That's our perfect five blueprint for how we make outbound campaigns work, how we decode them when they're not working and identify which element to fix, and how we make sure that no matter the channel, we're always top of mind and we get positive replies.
That's great. I also know that we have a lot of content to give out to you guys. We are running out of time already, but we can actually jump into some Q&A sections. So let's see what we got from the audience. What do you say?
Yeah, let's go.
Great. Let's get here into. Do you have access to the comments as well, Bill?
I can see all of the comments. Yes.
Perfect. Let's see what we got here. Will the webinar be safe so we can watch it later? Bruna Medeiros. Yes, it will be here later in our Snowville channel. I guess it will be with you as well, Bill, or not?
Yes. 100%.
Great. I seen a question regarding ICP up here. What is ICP targeting and what is TAM? Want to take this, Bill?
Uh-huh. So I was literally having the conversation yesterday about how sometimes you can come across quite nerdy or have people have no idea what you're talking about literally by using acronyms. But after being in the space for the last like 8 or 10 years now, it's just so rooted in me. So ICP is ideal customer profile. So it's pretty much the types of companies and prospects, individual within those companies that you want to target. The other one was TAM, right? TAM.
Exactly.
Yeah. So TAM, this is a term that comes from the startup world. They call it total addressable market, and then you can have the serviceable market. Pretty much total addressable market means how many companies do we have like this that belong to our ICP that match the criteria that we have. There is a really clear distinction between B2B and B2C marketing, right? And we're mostly discussing B2B on this this webinar today.
Mm-hmm.
B2B marketing B2C marketing has, I wouldn't say an infinite audience, but has a really vast audience. It's hard to track how many moms are out there in the world, right? Like there's so many of them. Thank God. In the B2B space, like how many pharmaceutical companies that have 50 plus employees exist out there? It's a finite number. So TAM becomes an important metric because if you know how many companies are out there, you can then also predict what the outbound campaign and workflow should look like. And usually the smaller the TAM, the smaller the audience that you're going after, the more channels you have to include in your campaign. So if someone comes up to me and says, hey, my TAM is 1,000 prospects, 1,000 companies, or even 10,000 prospects, I would say amazing. Forget everything I've just said. Get a Snowvio account and just do manual outreach. Hire a team of BDRs and do manual outreach. Like if your audience is really small, you have to be reaching out from all different channels, including cold calling, including WhatsApp, including like literally wherever you can find them, and just reach out. If you have bigger audiences, which is usually the case in B2B, you obviously have to use channels that allow you to scale. And email and LinkedIn are the two channels right now that allow you to do that. Yeah, sorry. A long answer to a small question, but I hope I covered it.
There's no simple answers. Even why the sky is blue takes longer than 10 seconds to answer. So don't worry.
Damn, I heard why this guy is blue, and I was looking at my screen. I was like, do I look blue today? Next one.
I got here
Can you have
another
links?
one from
There's one that has come up on the chat.
Yeah, from Alexander. Yeah. Thanks, Alex, for your question. Can you have links in the initial email or does it harm deliverability? I guess the regular answer, is the same old, same old. It depends. Depends on how warm your account is. Depends on your reputation towards the algorithm. That's why we're fighting here daily. Depends on the link, depends on your
Yeah.
domains, it depends. But if you already have a well-warmed account, you've been running it for a while, and you've been working with links in the first message before, and it worked, and you haven't seen your deliverability drop in the previous campaign, then it's a good sign. Other than that, if you're doing it for the first time, that's a huge don't. Stick to plain text, keep warming up your accounts, try and signature here and there, see how your account behaves, then start it slow. That's how I would do it. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you because even though I do recommend don't include links in the first email, and it does, and it can potentially harm deliverability, I'm sure that more than half of our campaigns include links in the first email. So I would say in general, the way I think about it is once your emails are warmed up and you're launching your campaign for the first time, I'm calling it the clean slate. You have a clean slate. Yes, you can include links. But then what happens after that should dictate whether you keep or remove those links. If you see that your click-through rate is high, and you can also track on Google Analytics that you have or a website visitor software, as I mentioned, like Snitcher, RB2B, etc., or Dealfront Lead Feeder, that you have website visitors from the companies that you reached out to, not the individuals, just the companies, then that means that people are visiting your website. And that also means that you're saying something interesting, right? So I would keep those links. Um, if then the campaign starts deteriorating in KPIs, especially in deliverability and numbers of replies, then one of the things in the optimizations I would consider doing is removing those links, because that might be the case for it. So yeah, obviously it always depends on what the link is. There are rumors that haven't been confirmed, by the way, that if you use links that have come by Google, like a Google Docs link, you might get banned harder because Google doesn't want to, mark its own software as spam. It does have merit, but we haven't been able to confirm it. But it still is a kind of like a rumor out there. So yeah, as you said, it depends on the link. For me, it also depends on campaign performance because at the end of the day, if the campaign doesn't work, we don't get paid. So I don't give a crap about what other people, I care about what I can see and about what I can validate. So rumor or no rumor, yeah, it depends on how things are performing.
Exactly. There's a pretty good follow-up question here. Don't know if it was the same person here. Didn't notice. Sorry about that. But this one's from Atta Girl. Atta Girl.
Edgar.
Define a well-warmed account. Again, it depends, but mostly takes observation. Observation, sorry. Snowville can help you a lot with
Yeah.
that. We have not only the warm-up system to warm up your account, but we have some other deliverability tools to run analysis through SPF, the KIN, the mark, all of this. If there's anything wrong with any of them, it points you out exactly what, so you can go to that pain point specifically, fix it, and get back on track ASAP. Before you start a campaign, run this analysis, see what's wrong, if so, then start slow and start to measure your campaigns. If you're having a high deliverability rate with a low bounce rate, sorry, with a low bounce rate, and that's the first thing you should aim, high deliverability, low bounce, then it's a good start. It's a good sign that you're on the right track to a good, well-warmed account. Then you increase your volume, send to more people in less time. You're keeping those rates. That's a damn good sign. If you're sending to a lot of people and your deliverability is not dropping, then you got a well-warmed account.
Yeah, exactly. I would say warmed up account is the one that allows you to send the maximum number of emails that you can send from an inbox, 30 if it's a Google inbox, 10 if it's a Microsoft inbox or a custom SMTP provider like MailForge or SalesCaptain's infrastructure. And then it's when you've done warm up for 2 to 3 weeks on that email account. Typically, that's a good warmed up account. Usually, the tools that you use for warm up, whether it's Snow.io or another tool, will let you know that this account has been properly warmed up. So you don't really need to know any technical kind of aspects to it. Just check the tool that you're using, and it should let you know if you're at like 80% or 90% or 100% warm up. Um,
Exactly.
Yeah, there's super interesting questions. I think Alexander and the father are making some really good ones on the chat.
Exactly. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer them all, but some of those questions are really worth for a webinar themselves, and maybe in the
Yeah,
near future. But for
you want to?
now, we got a surprise for our audience. Sorry, Bill, you were saying?
I was saying, do you want to pick one or two because there's a few hot ones around deliverability and warm-ups.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, the one that's quite interesting is what we should do about Outlook problem. None of my emails get delivered to Outlook, and I think this is a big one. I would
Hmm.
say not an easy fix is try to identify what companies use Outlook as their provider, and then try to separate sending to those inboxes from other leads in your campaign. You can use like even Clay or Lead Magic. I don't know if you can get data on the provider on the DNS data that the company
Snowville
is
can
using.
help you with that. Actually, we
Nice,
have a mailbox matching system. So if you're
perfect.
sending to Outlook, you're going to send from Outlook from Microsoft. Sorry, if you're sending from Amazon to Amazon and so on. So this helps a lot.
Yeah, so I think that the best answer that we have right now, that the market has right now, is in order to get deliverability to Microsoft inboxes, definitely use Microsoft inboxes if you're sending to Microsoft, and then Google if you're sending to Google. Use Novio's mailbox matching. I think that's just amazing. And then keep the number of emails sent to below 10 or below per inbox per day, and don't include any links. I'm not gonna say I promise you that that's gonna work, but test it out and then hit me up on LinkedIn or Fernando in the Snowbio team, um, and to check it out. I think that should work in like 80 to 90% of the cases and allow you to deliver
Mhm.
to the inbox. The final one is whether we recommend using normal domains, shared IP, or just Microsoft 365. I definitely recommend the blend of Google, Microsoft, and custom SMTP. Personally, I wouldn't use Microsoft inboxes unless I was sending to large or enterprise companies that mostly use Microsoft. So we have to use Outlook and Microsoft 365 as an inbox. Otherwise, I would stick with Google, which has the highest number of emails you can send per inbox per day. And custom SMTP, I know Mailforge is quite good with that. Whether we're using shared IP or not, in most cases, I would recommend, especially for hard industries like cybersecurity, medical, etc., etc., etc. Not illegal, just hard industries to do. Um, Using shared IPs, shared infrastructure, like Mailforge, Zapmail, etc., because it's better if you're sharing your reputation with other companies because it'll balance it out. If you're reaching out to an audience that you know really well, the messaging, you're really aware of what to say, the offer works, and you're looking to scale, then use dedicated IPs, use InfraForge or similar infrastructure, because that's the best infrastructure if you're looking to scale your campaigns and campaigns that are already working. That's just it. I know because we didn't touch on infrastructure too much. I think that's an interesting thing. Yeah,
Exactly. And always
to cover
check
as
with
well.
your domain provider, which is your daily sending limit, because you got one. Keep that in mind. You can set that and below into Snowville, so you always fly under the radar. So, very important step as well. All right. Guess that we can jump to the
Go ahead.
surprise we got.
By all means.
If you're following us here and you stick to us to the end, we got a special 15% off on Snowville monthly plans. Can just add Snov 15 at Snowville when you're acquiring a plan, and it should be there. 15% off every Snowville monthly plan. And I also heard that we got something on your end. Is that right, Bill?
Yes, the first one is we have an outbound audit. So if you're running campaigns and are looking to see how they're doing, how you can improve, if you're having issues with deliverability or with messaging and offers, uh, shoot me a connection request on LinkedIn and just type the word Snov.io. If we're already connected, just send me a message and just say Snov.io, and then the team will follow up. So we'll get your campaigns checked up. And for anyone who's also interested, we do have access to premium outbound inboxes. So just message me on LinkedIn and I'll give you private access to that as well, so that you can get your inboxes and then use Novio as your LinkedIn and email provider and get your campaigns live fast using everything, of course, that we've discussed today.
That's great. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, or we ran out of time, sorry, already. I wish we could touch all the points that we had to touch, but we'll have more of this coming up. Stay tuned to Snowville channel and Sales Captain. We were here today with the man, the legend, the captain, Bill Stathopoulos. Is that how I say it? Am I saying it right?
Yes. I mean, for someone who's not Greek, that's perfect. As close to perfect as you can get.
Great. It was awesome sailing with you and our audience. We anchor our ship here, and now see you next. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.